Hi, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode of From Worry to Wealth. I just want to acknowledge and apologize for the slight audio issues during the recording of this episode. We still strongly believe there is great and valuable information for you to learn within this episode, even with the technical difficulties. So thanks for being with us here, and we'll see you soon. I don't want to put you on the spot in terms of sharing what your net worth is, but, for those viewers and listeners, Henry's net worth's probably statistically in the top 7-8% of the United States. And you didn't go out and start a business. You didn't go invest in something that miraculously went up in value. You did it the old-fashioned way. Is that right? You just saved and invested and disciplined yourself for almost 40 years. From Wealth Creators USA, this is From Worry to Wealth, the podcast that shatters the myths and mystique surrounding wealth creation. As students, our schools and universities often neglect the crucial education on the core financial principles. I'm Ben Lyons. I'm a business owner, investor, entrepreneur, and author, and I'm joined by my business partner, Alex Fink. And together, we're here to inspire your journey towards improving your financial self. In a world buzzing with advice on the behaviors and mindset to become wealthy, we'll share proven processes tried and tested by our network of successful collaborators. So get ready to move past worry and move towards wealth and your improved financial self. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Worry to Wealth podcast. I am Ben Lyons, and I am here with my esteemed, right? We said esteemed,
yes.
Colleague,
Yes.
partner, Alex Fink.
Well fed and well rested.
That's right.
Which is exciting.
That's right. And he's got a new hat. I think last time you had the black hat on, maybe.
Is that?
I think so. I don't know. My memory isn't that good, but good looking hat though.
Thank you.
And we are really excited to be bringing a special guest with us today, a good friend, dear friend, and he'll tell you all about his story. But Henry Shuffler. So Henry, why don't you say hi to those that are watching or listening? Henry Shuffler, everyone.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. For the podcast.
Yeah, so we're excited to have Henry here. Henry, we go back, let's see, when did you and I meet? Our kids were, what did we say, 5th grade?
In 5th grade, yeah.
5th grade. So how old is my son now? Our kids are 30, right? So anyway, you all can do the math and figure it out. That's a long time, right?
That's quite a long time, yes.
Yeah, so I'm part of a school called Gerstel Academy. I've been on that board for 18 years, and it's a great school. All 4 of my kids went there, and Henry's kids went there. His son went there, and that's how Henry and I originally met. And I think I probably bent his ear one day about investing, and that's kind of...
Now, was Henry on the board with you, or is he just his kid?
No. Nope. But Henry did live.
Do you remind him that he's on the board and kind of tell him to take it? Okay.
No, it's implied.
Okay.
It's implied.
It's exactly. Okay, that's good.
Yeah. And, as a reminder to anybody that's watching or listening, this podcast really is centered around this book, From Worry to Wealth, where Alex and I go through the argument of the wealth creation formula. And we like having guests on that can help us really support the wealth creation formula and its ideas and what it's all about. And Henry happens to be, along with Alex, a case study, right? Henry, you may remember when I interviewed you for that. So without further ado, Henry, what I'd like to do is, I know your situation. You're an investor in our fund. You've been a supporter and an investor of mortgage strategies with me. Geez, when did you first start investing with mortgage strategies with us?
Well, I started with you with a different company. So that was back in 2011, 2012. And then I think Link started in 2013. I was one of your first investors. So it's
that's right.
Creation.
Cool. Well, thank you. Yeah. Congratulations for that.
Yeah.
So, we've interviewed people on this podcast that were mostly self-employed people. I would say a lot of self-employed people. Is that right, Alex?
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to go a little different direction because Henry you're going to tell your story, but you weren't really self-employed. You didn't own the printing place, right?
No, I didn't. worked in manufacturing my whole career.
Okay, so let's go back to the beginning here. Tell us kind of how you grew up. What we like to do is we're going to go a little deeper here, and feel free to share whatever you want to share, and don't share what you don't want to share. But we start with influencers in our book. Like, who were your early influencers that got you thinking about your life plans? So, why don't you talk about how you grew up and who your influencers were?
Well, I grew up on a farm, so growing up on a farm, you learn to have a solid work ethic. You get up early, work all day long, go to bed late or early rather. Um, then I worked full time and went to school full time. That made me a different person. So I've pretty much been on my own since I was a young teenager. Um, I got out of college and I focused really hard on staying out of debt while I was in college. So I would encourage the listeners that don't have the money to go to a 4-year university to look at the community college with a home. The goal, I would say, is get out of college out of debt. Because if you started out with $100,000 in debt, it's kind of hard to create wealth.
So Henry, let's kind of back up a second. First, I want to know what kind of crops or cattle or what kind of farm did you have?
It was a small farm, so we raised grain, had vegetables, we had cattle and horses and pigs and chickens. Well, that was more just for our personal use. Wasn't stuff that we raised and sold.
Okay, I was just curious. All right, so in terms of we start with the influencers.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
What area of the country was this farm in?
In Maryland,
Oh, it was in Maryland. Okay.
not far from where Dunn is.
Okay.
Cool. Didn't know you were in farming. That's
Yeah.
that's good to know. So let's go back to the influencer question because one of the early chapters in the book, we talk about who's influencing us. We talk about who's giving us the financial values and the financial decision making. So can you tell us uh, w- your parents or your teachers or your friends? I don't want to lead the witness here. And then was college something that was your idea, or was it somebody else's idea? Tell us about that piece.
Um, as far as influence, it was, obviously friends that I grew up with a good friend of mine. It was a father that I didn't have because my father passed away when I was 5. So he was an attorney at the time. He worked for the IRS, and he and I talked about finance a lot. And then I went to college and I majored in finance or business administration with concentration in finance. And I taught myself. So we grew up really poor. I wanted to make sure that I didn't stay poor. So I think the most important thing is educating yourself. And unfortunately, a lot of people, you don't learn anything about finance until you get it high school, and then you learn kids that may or may not know what we're talking about. We'll get to college, and it's the college professionals telling you to go in debt, and that's a mistake. If you can avoid debt, avoid the debt.
How did you pay for college?
I worked full time.
Okay, but why did you go to college? Was it is it your idea, or was that an influencer's idea?
Well, I wanted to be a machinist. Actually, I was certified to be a machinist, but I couldn't become a machinist until I turned 18. And I was only 17 when I got to high school. So my best friend decided he was going to go to college. So I went to college because he said he was going. So I went.
Did you go to a 4-year school, or was it a college?
I went to community college for 3 years and then I went to Towson University.
Got it. Alex.
This mentor that you speak of that was you said was an attorney and had some financial background. I gave you some financial advice. Did that play into your thought process? Well, you said he did some work for the IRS, right?
Yes, he was a special agent at the IRS. I would say that most of the financial influence for me was self-education because my parents were well educated in finance and all through high school. I never discussed it. And even concentrating in finance, college, what they talked about wasn't personal finance. It was more corporate finance, the stock market. So you had to really teach yourself and educate yourself.
Yeah, and so it sounds like so your father passed away when you were young.
Right.
This mentor or sort of alternative father figure really didn't play a huge part in educating you financially. So you took it. So you were driven yourself to go out and seek that knowledge based on the fact that you felt like your family was didn't have the financial depth that you had hoped to have when you were older. So you thought, hey, I'll just go out and educate myself financially.
Right. Well, you tired if you grow up poor, you get tired of being poor.
Yeah, for sure.
So you do whatever you can to learn more. So you seek out people that are successful, and there's a lot of truth in imitating what they do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Alex tries to imitate me all the time, Henry, and I don't know.
They're just not good at it. Yeah, I wish I could be better at Henry.
I think one of the things that if you guys your podcast and is that it's unfortunate these kids go to college today, and when they get to college, the college professors just tell them, borrow money, you're going to take a lot more as a college graduate and everything like that. And that's not true. In manufacturing, I had many people that had degrees, philosophy and mass communication, and whatever, name it. They worked for me in manual jobs to required a degree, and they were in debt.
Yeah.
And it's a huge mistake, and that's something at the college level they promote, and it's unfortunate. There's so many ways you can go to college and not be in debt. Anybody that graduates from college is in debt today. It's their own fault, and they got bad advice.
Well, what advice would you, Henry? What advice would you give our listeners as to how to get a college degree and come out debt free?
If you can live at home, stay at home, go to community college. And in most states, you graduate from community college and have an AA degree, you automatically are accepted to the main campus of any four-year university in that state. So if it's Penn State or University of Maryland, if you went to community college and you go to the four-year school, the main campus, you're automatically guaranteed and you can get $1,600 life learning credit from the IRS today to pay for college. And in Pennsylvania, the most community college can charge you is $1,600 a semester. So if you work part-time, you can be debt-free getting out of community college. And then if you still live at home and go to the four-year university, in work, you can earn at least maybe $5,000 a year, and you can get out of school debt-free.
Yeah, that's good advice for sure. Yeah, I think it's tough to do with the private universities, obviously, right? Because they're not. So you're saying stick to public institutions in state.
Well, no, my daughter went to a private school and she worked. I mean, she carried 19 credits each semester and worked 20 hours in the library. So every kid can work, And then kids get out of school and they're $200,000 in debt and they can't get a job. They just party and have a good time.
Yeah, for sure.
And when you go to college, you're going to get a job. So make that what you're majoring in, support whatever you're going to borrow, lifestyle that you want.
Yeah. Private schools typically have a higher tuition rate, so I was just thinking it'd be tougher. My daughter went to a private. My eldest daughter went to a private school, pretty expensive, and just trying to think of how she would get out of that without being a challenge. Yeah,
but my point would be there is a way to do it without going into debt.
Yeah. There's no question about that. So it's good advice. I like it.
Yeah. So you graduate with a degree in finance or a degree in business with a specialty in finance, and you did it without debt. And what did you do?
I had $2,500 of debt.
Okay, minimal debt. To me, that's
objection. Yeah, debt. Yeah.
Given the $1.3 million I spent on my kids' education, minimal debt.
Yeah, Ben, I can see Ben deflating in his chair right now after spending.
Right. Yeah.
Wait a second. I could have gone to community.
For those listeners and viewers, don't follow my path. Spend $1.3 million after tax.
I have a question for Henry though about school. You're advocating working and going to school. Do you believe for our listeners or people that are trying to improve their lives, it sounds like the education may be in your mind, a requirement to get to a certain level, given your focus on education and it seems like a focus on college, and your advice to our listeners about ways in which they can attend college without incurring debt or building a pile of debt. Do you think college is for everybody? And would you recommend that for all of our listeners, or are there some alternatives available?
No, I don't think college is for everybody. I think that children or not young adults need to decide what they want to do with their life and what makes them happy and what they like to do. I think someone could go into the trades or go to college. I think you need to do one or the other, because if not, you can end up on fast food or retail. So, or you're lucky that like something you'd love being really good at that doesn't happen to too many people. But I think you need to either learn a trade or go to college. And if you go to college, then you need to decide that you want to pursue a career that's the lifestyle that you really want. But education that I talked about really is making sure that you educate yourself about personal finance. And you can find all that online. You can educate yourself. If they don't teach you in high school how to buy a car, how to get a mortgage, how to fill out your taxes. The only thing I remember was showing us how to balance a checkbook.
Yeah.
Which no one does anymore.
Yeah, you should probably still balance a checkbook, but
Well, I just make sure it's right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So that was going to be my next question. Is it seemed like that you were suggesting going to college is a good thing, but you had also suggested, I think, that you weren't given the financial education that you needed in college. So I was curious what the resources were. I would have assumed today for our listeners today, there are way more resources that they can effectively get to and quicker than when you were growing up, right? I mean, there's just so many avenues for getting the information.
Exactly. On the internet, you can, and on an online class, everybody should at least take a basic personal finance class.
And I assume we have that, yeah, which is great. Yeah. So our platform would be one platform, and it sounds like you would recommend an online platform outside of just the traditional schooling that people get to learn personal education. What areas would you recommend that they focus on?
I would think the life skills you would need to survive life, and at least some type of education. How the stock market works, how loans work, bonds, economics.
Yeah, you mentioned buying a car, like how to buy a car.
How to buy a car.
Yeah.
What interest means, how much you're going to pay for the car if you finance it all. Right. If you get a mortgage, how much interest you're really going to pay on the mortgage loan.
Yeah, the very basics. I think the takeaway would be to outline kind of some of the more important areas that people need to get educated on, and I'm sure we have a platform for that. So yeah, I was just curious what your thoughts were.
Well, I think it's also to understand what's good debt and bad. That's probably beyond the introduction of finance, but there's a time to borrow money and there's a time not to borrow money.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Well, the good news is Wealth Creators Institute happens to have a 15-level personal finance course that contains over 100 financial life lessons, all the way from buying a car to getting your first credit card to opening up a bank account. So this is a good time for a plug on that.
There you go. Yeah, absolutely.
I agree with that. That's exactly what they should do. Let's take the course.
Yeah, and we can tell our listeners and viewers more about that later. That actual course is called the Financial Foundations course, and it's actually not rolled out yet. It won't be rolled out till January.
Yeah, but I mean, it plays right into what you're saying, right? Is we've all acknowledged, I think we can all acknowledge that there are limited mentors, there are limited classes within the traditional education system that educate people properly on finance, how to buy your first car, number of other things that you mentioned. So that's part of the reason we have this platform, and you're just kind of validating, our thoughts there. So it's interesting. And I'll let you go. I think you were getting through college and gonna ask.
Well,
how to
I'll
pay for
say one more thing.
Yeah.
One that really surprises me is that when you start talking to people about finance and taxes or insurance, they kind of just gloss over. They don't want to know. You make the assumption that it's far too complicated, that they're not going to understand it, and that's not true. It's pretty simple if you just apply the effort and make sure you understand. So,
Yeah. So I think your point there is for our listeners, don't be intimidated. Don't just assume. People's preconceived notions drive a lot of their behavior, right? If somebody believes they're going to fail, they're going to go in and probably going to figure out a way to fail, right? So as much as these things may seem either nerve-wracking or scary or anxiety prone, it's really a simple process, and you would encourage people to really stay interested in it, stay focused on it, and really get through the education they need to better their own personal lives. Right.
Yeah, so as long as I've known you, Henry, you've been very vocal about this deficiency that exists within our society about not preparing young people on financial lessons, and that's why we're really excited to be bringing this curriculum. As a guy that's been on the board of 4 schools, I couldn't agree with you more. It is fascinating, and this is why we're excited to be bringing these forums out there. So you're still with me, right? We haven't frozen up again.
I'm still with you.
For those listeners and viewers, you may see some starting and stopping. It's just because, unfortunately, our internet today is fuzzy. So, Alex, I think we got Henry all the way to he graduated college. So
absolutely.
Congratulations, Henry. You graduated college.
Good job.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Oh,
That's nice.
So, what was your first job after graduating college?
When I first got out of college, I went to work for London Fog as a quality control manager.
Okay, you got a salary, or were you paid hourly?
Salary.
Salary.
It's an apparel company.
Yeah, London Fog.
Yes.
Yeah,
Raincoats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Nice.
Did you have investable income? In other words, did you have money that you were able to save beyond just your expenses at that time?
Yes, I would save a lot of money. I got married and we saved money to build a house. So we probably saved 3/4 of what we needed worth the cost of the house.
Wow.
In the first 4 years we were married.
So would it be safe to say that you live modestly below your means?
Absolutely. I'm a big believer, even today, live beyond below your means. I monitor my net worth every year, and I have a goal in my head I want to hit each year. And if I'm not making the goal because I'm not getting the returns I expected, I adjust my expenses.
That's great. So as the benefit of your investments is realized, you adjust your lifestyle to still achieve your objectives, even as your investments may not be producing the returns that you had hoped for.
Correct.
That's impressive.
So you were what age when you graduated college?
22.
And I mean, my knowledge of you is you've essentially worked in manufacturing almost all your life. Is that
Correct.
And you rose to the ranks of like manager.
I was the vice president.
And you retired at what age? Because I know you retired somewhat young.
At 60.
At 60. Yeah, I think to me, that's young.
That's very young.
As a guy that's almost 60.
Yeah. That's when a lot of people start saving for retirement, is when they're over 60.
And I don't want to put you on the spot in terms of sharing what your net worth is. But, for those viewers and listeners, Henry's net worth's probably statistically in the top 7-8% of the United States. And you didn't go out and start a business. You didn't go invest in something that miraculously went up in value. You did it the old-fashioned way. Is that right? You just saved and invested and disciplined yourself for almost 40 years. Is that fair?
And I put my kids through private school, and I put my kids through college, and I paid every penny.
That's pretty impressive.
That's very impressive.
Yeah, and I think Dave Ramsey would probably really support everything you did because he always says, debt is evil. I don't know that he says exactly that way, but a lot of people have shared with me that my philosophy of teaching about leverage and taking on debt to buy more assets is very different than the
The
philosophy.
traditional thinking. Yeah. It's less conservative, right? It's more aggressive.
Yeah, I would definitely say, or Henry, would you say that your approach is more conservative as
I think my approach is more conservative than yours. You do crazy stuff sometimes.
yeah. Yeah, thank you.
That's nice.
That's probably
Yeah, we do. Maybe we need to change the title of this podcast.
right. Ben is crazy.
Crazy thinking. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Well, I think that's true. I think
I think our model is to accelerate the wealth creation process, utilizing leverage and proper use of time, right? So that can, if you know what you're doing and it's calculated. What's interesting is Henry, in our thinking, we see the other way of thinking is crazy because you're losing a lot of opportunity, and the cost of that opportunity. It's so sticking with that subject. My primary residence has a bunch of equity in it, right? And this is going to be an interesting story, but one of the things that I've said to my wife is we either need to sell this place now that we have this equity, or be okay with the fact that for every month we stay here, this house costs us 4 times what you actually think it costs us, because I look at the opportunity of that equity
The opportunity.
properly, and I've said it in a pretty offensive way, actually. I think I've said something like, for every month that we stay here, several people have to die. It's what I've said, right? So I've said, so I first said, we could save a lot of people's lives with the money that we, the opportunity on the money that we have in here. And that's part of the way that we think. So when people pay off their houses, I start to, it gives me anxiety for some reason, where it would be the opposite for somebody else, because I look at all the lost opportunity on that,
Right.
on that money that's sunk into that asset that's not really appreciating at the rate it needs to. So it's just a different way.
And I made that mistake
Right. And
because I paid off my house on my 40th birthday. It was a big deal for me. I wanted to be debt free, so I paid off my house.
right.
And in hindsight, I could have retired a lot earlier
For sure.
if I just invested the money,
Right.
or even leveraged the equity in my house and invested that. But
Yeah,
I didn't.
my brother-in-law had a 2% mortgage on one of his houses, and he accelerated the payments and used that 2% mortgage to pay off his house in 5 years, whereas he could have kept that 2% money out there, taken all the money that he accelerated and paid it, and put it into the stock market or some other investment yielding him 10%, and he would have 5 times the So anyway,
Thanks.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I think that's the whole point of writing the book and teaching that our personalities and our strategies are unique to each of us individually. And what we're doing here is we're teaching different different math and different strategic ways that people can go about it. Paying off debt, my sister's a very conservative individual, and debt is evil to her. And I have to constantly say, but you could take that that money and
Debt is evil only if you don't have an alternative solution that's at a better return than your cost of your debt. I mean,
Correct.
So people should prioritize their higher priced debt first, so long as they don't have another solution to generate returns beyond that debt threshold.
So, Henry, would you do it differently? I mean, knowing what you now know about investing, because you have invested with us in Link for 11 years, and prior to Link, it was probably 5 years prior to Link. So maybe 16 years now. Would you do it differently?
Not the past 16 years, but prior to that, I would have not put all my money down on the house. Well, when I got my first house, the interest rates were 9%.
Right.
So that's why I was trying to get the debt down.
Right. For sure.
But when it went down to 5%, I should have refinanced the house for the max and then took the money and invested it.
That's right.
I'd have been better off than retired at an earlier age.
Right.
That's the one thing I would have
Leveraged and arbitraged.
Yeah.
Which is going to be one of the podcasts we're doing next, actually.
Yeah.
Great. Leverage and arbitrage. All right. So you spent almost 40 years working, and I know you got to the rank of vice president. And any strategic advice on for our listeners and viewers on that journey? I mean, I'm trying to pull out anything that is consistent with the book on variable A, which is really the scalability of income.
I have a question in that regard. So Henry, you had disposable income, right? That you used to either pay down debt or invest, right?
Right.
As you're paying down debt or investing, you're building your net worth. And you said you had a calculation of like the net worth accomplishments you want to have every year. And I love how you stuck to your plan, right? So I think that's very easy for folks to understand. My question is, what percentage of your disposable income did you invest or use to increase your net worth versus what did you use for your lifestyle? For those folks listening, I'm sure people are wondering how they can get to your place and what the allocation was for you.
In the beginning, it was pretty difficult. I
Right.
was reading an article today. You invested $100 a month in 1982 until today, it would come out to about $500,000 safe for retirement, assuming an 8% return.
Right.
So I would say if your listeners look at how much you put in a month, you could have it 65 if you're talking to someone that's 22. And if you wait till you're 30, the difference goes down like 30%. So instead of $500,000, you only had two or $300,000.
Right.
So if you save $500 or $600 a month, which for most people is pretty easy. Well, I'm assuming it is. But yeah, if you save that much, and it's $500,000 of retirement, you're at $2 million in retirement. And most people think they can't achieve that.
And so your recommendation for the listeners would be to set a target amount that you put away each month. I think our models show pretty reasonable. If you put away $300 a month starting in your 20s, you're going to be pretty wealthy, by the time you get to your 40s and 50s. That's a really, really easy model to understand. But so rather than taking a percentage of your disposable income and trying to max that out or trying to hit that number, you're saying just set on a fixed number and invest that every month.
Exactly.
Yeah, and actually,
And then when you get older, it's easier to put a bigger chunk of your income away.
For sure.
Yeah,
you can always adjust it up as you get older. But if you
I think
look at
it's
people in their
critical to
20s,
try to
you were
get
22. When
in
you were
today's society, you got to get the six-figure income as quickly as possible, because you're going to struggle to hold that.
Right. When you were 22, how much would you say you were putting away each month when you started? Was it $100? Was it $300?
$100 would have been a lot.
Oh, $100 would have been okay. Yes, that's encouraging, I think, for people listening, because there are probably people listening that say, "Well, I don't even have $100 to put away." But you're saying just put something away, right? And then build as you grow your income.
Even if you just
build,
most people get tax refund, so
Yeah.
if they get the tax refund, reinvest it, don't spend it,
Great.
only buy what you have. Do zero-based budgeting all the time. Do I really need it? Is it worth going to pay for it?
And where did you invest at that time? Were you stock market focused? Was it?
Well, the only investment I had is I just increased what I had in my 401k.
Okay.
That's the only avenue I had at the time. I didn't know Ben.
Okay.
If I'd have met Ben 20 years earlier, I'd have been a lot better off.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah,
Ben.
that's
Look
sweet.
at that. Little plug for you.
Sweetest thing I heard.
Yeah, that's so nice. Yeah, that's great. So
Good thought of
traditional investing in a 401k, the 401k was managed by your employer. You had various options, growth and you just, standard investment strategy. And the employer was matching the 401k?
My first job at Lumber Plug was a defined benefit plan. And when I left there, they just paid the lump sum.
Okay.
And I rolled that over into the 401k. I went to work for Solo Cup Company. And they had they had a profit sharing plan. And since I was the general manager at the time, they just contributed 15% of my salary to money.
Oh, that's huge.
Profit sharing plan.
That's great.
And they invested it. I think it was Putnam at the time.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's a lot.
Yeah, but you're disciplined the whole way through.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And it just kept growing and compounding. And
Even now in retirement, my rule is never spend principal. I'd go back to work if I spend principal. I'm only going to spend interest.
Yeah.
And my goal is I only want to spend less than a third of my interest.
That's amazing.
That's my mental goal.
I love it. So what's the plan, Henry, for the excess money? Pass it down to...
I have 3 beautiful grandchildren.
Nice. That's nice.
it's very sweet.
Yeah, did you want to get on? Did you want to become a
tried-
grandchild?
Tried to get on the will
Okay.
there, but
Yeah. We're not on the will?
we
Just to be clear, Ben is not part of the will, Henry?
No.
Okay. Well, that's a shame, Ben. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry. That's okay.
Yeah.
I appreciate the effort there, Alex.
Yeah.
So Henry, as we close down here, any final? It's hard to share in a podcast your life's journey and an explanation. I know. Hopefully, you're not upset with me telling everybody. I know you're 65 years old, and you know exactly what you did to get here, and it's easy to tell people, here's what I did, here's what you could do, and I know you, and I know your net worth, and I know your success, and I think you've done a great job. And as I mentioned at the beginning, every other guest we've had on this podcast has really been a self-employed individual who's had the chance as a self-employed person to achieve things from that perspective, and you did it as a salaried individual. Which from my perspective is harder.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because it takes a lot more discipline to do what you've done. And any other words of wisdom that you would share with me and Alex and our viewers, listeners?
The one thing in life I think I want to make sure you do is if you're going to get married, make the right partner. If you're not in the same boat, rowing the same direction, it'd be very difficult. So I was fortunate.
That is, if you look at life's choices, that's probably the most important choice you're going to make. So it's a very, very good point.
Did my wife tell you to say that?
No,
That's right.
Neither did my wife. She's not here though, so don't tell her I said that.
Now, some people I know would get married every couple of years. That's not something you
Yes.
did, Henry, because that could impact your net worth negatively.
I'll be married 39 years this year.
Wow. Congratulations. That's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Look how much hair Henry has and how dark it is. That's really unfair.
That's impressive. Yeah.
That's
Henry's got, yeah. Maybe we'll do a hair podcast
right.
next.
The next one will be the hair.
Yeah, I like that.
Right.
Yeah. Aesthetics.
Okay. Well, Henry, thanks for being with us and sharing your story. We could have probably talked longer, but that's all the time they give us. They charge us extra for going. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
They
that's
don't-
well.
They don't
we do.
charge us extra. But
So the text in the mail.
right.
Can bring it.
Yeah, so I appreciate you being with us, and if anybody needs a follow up, we'll have you on again, and have a great day. Thanks again for being part of Link Capital and being part of the investments. I think you've been part of some of the investments, real estate investments that Alex and I have been involved in as well, and so appreciate you joining us today, Alex. Anything else for Henry?
Henry, great to talk to you. Good advice. We'll try to distill that down to some actionable items for folks. So really appreciate your time and attention.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
All right, thanks. Take care.
Take care, man.